Hey everyone, welcome back to the Chinese Medicine Podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, Jeff Shearer, all the way from New South Wales. So today we're going to talk about a few exciting things. If you've had acupuncture before and you've had one needle and you're wondering what are they doing, or less needles, we're going to answer some of the theory behind that. And for practitioners or new to become practitioners, you're a student of Chinese medicine, I know there's many watching this channel, we're going to talk about when less is more, why you would want to use such a practice within acupuncture to help your practice, help your patients, get better results, have a happier life, have a better what do you call it, better life, as a practitioner, easier, nicer practice, more fun. And also, he's just a lovely person.
Oh, bless you. Thanks so much. I'm really chuffed to be here. I've listened to your podcast heaps of times and I feel a bit humbled to be here.
Oh, that's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, I get lots of requests for people to come on, but I only have lovely people on.
Oh, bless you.
That's what I tell all the email people. Anyway, so let's get into, you've had a really significant career in Chinese medicine, I would say. And you've made, there's a lot of people that know you in Australia because of you've done a lot of stuff for Chinese medicine, I would say.
Oh, bless you.
Over the years, getting involved in all kinds of stuff. We don't have to talk about all that.
Yep.
But you have done a lot, and a lot of people respect you and know that you've done a lot. So I just want to say that you've done a lot for our industry. Like
thank you.
I haven't met you in person until today, but I've seen your name and your endeavours and your things that you've done, like with associations and things like that.
Thank you.
Groups, and those things can be arduous and really time consuming. And you wonder, is it really doing anything? Well, little people like me, over the other side of the pond, the other side of the desert, kind of, take notice of that stuff and so thank you for the stuff that you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Means a lot.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about acupuncture. That's your main bag, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm a herbalist as well, but I'm pretty much these days, what I'm teaching at the moment is acupuncture. So that's my real, I suppose, strongest skill set and my bigger passion.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
And so one of the commonest things people, I wouldn't say complain, but note about Chinese medicine, I would say when they come in, or let's not say Chinese medicine, but acupuncture.
Yep.
They've come from other practitioners often, and many people on this channel are watching from the US or the UK. That's the main audience. And they've had an experience with one practitioner, and then they go to a different practitioner, and it's like, oh, one of these things is not like the other. Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And there's sometimes people can feel, unless they get a result, and maybe you can speak to that as well,
sure,
that hang on a minute, what's happening here? This isn't what I've experienced in the past. And what I'm talking about is, like, you've gone to a practitioner and you've had maybe 10 or 20 needles in you, versus not having very many needles, because that is your special style.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think the thing is that people don't kind of recognize is there's so many different schools of thought within Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine is a very big umbrella, right? So there's, you go back to some of the classics and there's the Moxa school, there's the warm disease school, there's all these different sort of branches, and there's bone setting, like chiropractic and that sort of chiropractic sort of things as well. There's acupuncture, there's Chinese herbs, there's gua sha. There's so many different elements that come into play, and I think that particularly in my training, we were taught a little bit of a lot, and we weren't really. This is what I feel anyway. Different, some of my colleagues that I went through with might disagree with me, but I felt like we learned a lot of little bits, and we didn't necessarily learn depth of any specific thing quite so much. So we learnt acupuncture, we learnt massage, we learnt gua sha, we learnt moxa, we learnt cupping. And I think there's a bit of a tendency for practitioners when they're perhaps trying to find their way to feel like, I need to give value to my clients. I need to make sure that they feel like they're getting value. And my approach these days is, all I have to do is get results. How I get those results really doesn't matter, because realistically, and I've actually done this as a survey with my clients, what do you expect from a treatment? And over 300 clients, I think it was 80% of people said, I want results.
Right. Yeah. That's really great that you've done that. Actually.
Yeah,
That's
so
powerful.
I like to sort of back up any of my statements with a
okay.
little bit of research. So, within those questions, it was like, do you want more elements like moxa and cupping and massage and all that sort of stuff? And again, still 80+% of people were saying we come for results. So. I think that we can fall into the trap as Chinese medicine practitioners to think that we need to do more. And sometimes that is because we lack confidence in our own skills. And certainly when I first started practicing, that's how I approached it.
Yeah.
I was a massage therapist first. So I think I was quite good at it. And so I really wanted to bring that into the way I practice to make sure, worst case scenario, if I wasn't getting results with clients in terms of particularly musculoskeletal issues, at least I could say, well, the massage is going to make a bit of a difference. And so I would do massage, I would do moxa, I would do cupping. And that was really more about my own sense of lack of skill, my own confidence, really.
Yeah. I can identify with all those things that you just said.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think everyone can, because we don't get mentored through. Most of us don't get mentored once we leave college.
Yeah, you're out. You're booted out, and that's it. Well, you do. I think I was lucky because I had a really great teacher but you have to reach out to them, and I've told my students that many times. Like, and I help other students, but I'm not going to ring them all up and go, "Hey, how you going? What's happening with your day?" But if they contact me, I'll make time for that.
Yeah.
But what you said about the teaching, I used to tell students by second year Chinese medicine school, this is like Miss Maud's. Now you won't know what that is because it's a smorgasbord or a buffet restaurant in Perth.
Yeah, right.
And it's like you get a bit of everything.
It's like Sizzler.
Exactly, like Sizzler, the old Sizzler, but there's no cheese toasty. Who's the cheese toasty? The gua sha. I don't like it is like that, and they learn a little bit of everything. Like literally, there will be a week, as in a 3-hour session on Dr. Tan's balance method, and then next week we're doing scalp because I've taught those classes, and it's nothing against that particular college. That's how they all do it because that's how I did it, and it was a different college, and I'm sure they do that in the US because again, the school wants to provide them value.
Yeah, so, of course.
But it then points to the almost impossibility of being really great at a skill without intensive training in that particular skill, right?
Yeah. I think there was a really good comment made by one of our Western science teachers when I was at college. He said, what I'm hoping, my aim for you when you walk out of here and you've graduated is that I don't expect you to know all the answers, but I expect you to be able to know where to go to find them.
Oh, that's great.
And that was a really powerful thing for me because I think the other thing is you expect that you're going to walk out and you're going to know it all, right? And there's there's that much you've been taught, and out of that much you've been taught, you probably remember less again.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a really valuable kind of commentary for me. Is this is the very beginning.
Yep.
And you need to go out and really seek support and education. And I certainly, for me, I didn't do that when I first started out. I just was like, I'm just trying to figure it out on my own. I'm not great at being told.
Yeah. Aren't we all? Yeah. One of the things I love about seeing what you've done with your what do we call it? Your course, but it's not really just a course,
workshops,
right? Your workshops.
Yep.
And that's what helped me when I started doing this different system of Chinese herbs, having a very structured Facebook community group.
Yeah.
Right? So some of those groups are terrible. They're not great.
Yep.
And that's not
be
the
a bit
fault
of infighting and stuff, can't there?
Well, it's a reflect. I mean, some of them are good for different things. You want to sell your Chinese medicine books, or you want to, I don't know, find someone to work at your clinic or something like that. But, like that in itself takes a lot of work to run a group like that, to keep it tight. But it's also that's helping people to learn. They've done the workshop, and then they're like, okay, now I've got a case.
Yeah.
I want to ask about this case, and you've got people that are helping, you're helping them, other students are
Yeah,
helping. Yeah.
I think that's part of it. One of the things that before I started doing this, for quite a number of years, I used to run a business called Ethical Practice, which was about
Okay.
teaching practitioners how to run a business, how to build a business, and a business with integrity. So you're
Right.
still not sacrificing your values in the process. And one of the things that I found within that was I really wanted people to start to have conversations within themselves rather than just listen to me. I'm only one person. I've only got one perspective. I'm very particular about how I like to do things, and that's not necessarily the way everyone else wants to do it. So for me, the group is very much about being able to have a conversation with a group of people and a respectful conversation as well. So there's a
Yep.
very strong line around if anyone causes any trouble, regardless, you're out. So it's a very kind, generous kind of group of people, which is what I want. And also too, I think, I do okay within my clinic. Like the workshops and that sort of stuff, I do it because I love doing this and I want practitioners to be able to think a little bit outside the box and have the opportunity to not feel like they're stuck in a paradigm. And, the beauty of the group is it allows different people to come in and give their perspective of what they've learnt
Yep.
as well. So the group is not just, I'm just not interested in having a group to sell stuff. I want a group to be
that's
an
what I'm
educational
saying.
platform.
I don't see that
Yeah,
your
yeah.
group is to sell stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's probably part of the other groups as well. Like anyway, we all have to sell our stuff.
Yeah, of
as
course.
well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
Need to get paid for your time.
yeah, you do. Yeah. Going back to the perspective of the patient coming into the treatment room and
Yep.
you've just done, let's say you've done one needle, which I is actually an much older style of Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's not
is.
like something new, but
No.
because it's just not been that common,
No.
people think, oh, that's a new thing.
I haven't invented this.
Yeah, right. So tell us about how you do that. Like, how do you go about finding that one special point? Is there a reason? Is there a method to the?
Yeah,
For
so-
people that don't know anything about.
Yeah, so I have to, first tip my hat to my teachers. So Dr. Tan was one of my teachers, and he was the first person that the lights went on for me when I learnt his style, the balance method. And I started practicing that straight away, and I went away from doing lots of massage and cupping and all that sort of stuff, and I basically just said, this is all I do now. Dr. Wei Chi Young, both of them rest in peace, or may they rest in peace. I learnt then through that the Tung side of things. So Tung is a different numbering system, but essentially it's the same premise. You're looking at one channel is balanced by 6 or 7 other channels, and so there's a relationship between the channels essentially, which in a lot of the herbal medicine stuff that's talked about a lot as well. And I didn't feel like we were adequately kind of taught that, or it wasn't emphasized enough. And I believe personally that is the essence of acupuncture, Chinese medicine acupuncture, in terms of it's not about, colon 4 treats liver qi stagnation. It's colon 4 treats these regions and these specific conditions. And when you break those down, it looks at that region treats other regions or other channels. And so essentially what I learnt is an extension of those. So if one channel is balanced by 7 other channels, then one channel also should be able to be balanced by 12 channels, because there will be an interrelationship between them. And so I started to figure that out. And then I ended up doing some training with a guy called Dr. Slate Burris, and he does neoclassical acupuncture, and a really extraordinary man.
Yep. I've heard lots of good things about him.
He's
course.
so ridiculously smart. He speaks 7 languages
Whoa.
fluently: Russian, French, Spanish, all these, just crazy stuff. So he teaches in those countries in those languages. But I learnt his style, and through that, he ends up getting to a point where it's a one needle approach.
Right.
But through learning with him, there was something I kind of fell over by accident, and I kind of worked out essentially that if you use any needle within reason, if you apply an appropriate needle technique to that, and keep going back to that needle until you get the change, then it should treat everything.
You mean everything that's wrong with that person,
Yeah.
or everything that?
Everything that's wrong with that
Okay,
person. So
right.
for me, it's almost like, I mean, we were taught when we were learning at college that Chinese medicine is holistic.
Yes.
However, my experience of being taught, it wasn't taught holistically. We were taught that you use these points for hay fever, you use these points for this, you use these points for that. So I never felt that connection of holistic. And so this, what I've kind of stumbled across now, and again, I don't think I've invented anything. It's just my version of probably an ancient kind of approach, which I'm using all of the old kind of techniques and all the old theories. I'm just applying them in my own way, essentially.
That's an interesting way to think about holistic. Like, I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Like
So,
that idea that, that is like one thing can treat the whole.
well,
I like
you
that.
think about the Chinese clock, right? So if you're looking at the liver as 1 to 3, and you're looking at, say, you want to treat the heart, then if you treat the liver, because the clock has a flow-on effect, because all the channels flow into each other, if you create enough stimulus within that treatment, then that flow-on effect should go to the end point and come back to the liver again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's also why I think acupuncture has such a hard time proving itself, or being proven in research studies, because they do a thing called sham acupuncture,
Yeah.
which sometimes it depends on, sometimes they trick people. Just for people who don't know what that is, like they need a placebo. Okay, so like compare, like let's say you had the treatment and I
You need
had
a
the
control
placebo.
group, yeah.
So I'm the placebo person. So I go into the thing and it has to feel as if I'm having the acupuncture. So they sometimes use this needle that like retracts on you. So it feels like, especially if you've had a practitioner that's tapped it in. Now, this doesn't work if you're doing it properly and actually putting the needle in with your hands, which is what you should be doing. But let's say you are a tapper, no offense to the tappers, but you tapped it in,
I'm with
then
you.
it taps it in and it goes back out. You think, oh, I had a treatment. It just had a tap on your finger, right? But there are some sham acupuncture or placebo acupuncture where they just needle another point, just a different point.
A non-acupuncture point.
Yeah, but all point there aren't really any, like, this is my idea. I don't
agree.
think there are any like they're all connected. They're connected to a lot. They're still doing something. It's still going to do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. So we did this at ACMAC a couple of years ago. I was doing a presentation at ACMAC and I got the crowd to make a decision. I said, you give me a number, you give me a direction.
Yeah.
And we got the crowd to basically give me guidance as to where to put a needle on someone. And so it was a non-acupuncture point.
Yep.
I put the needle in, and it was at this point that just as I was about to put the needle in, I just went, I'm standing in front of a room, I can't remember how many, maybe 100 people. And I'm thinking, all of a sudden I thought to myself, oh my God, what if this doesn't work?
Yeah.
And so then I said it to the crowd. It's at this point that he realizes that if this doesn't work, he's going to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
And so we did it, and we used the technique that
Yep.
I'm teaching. And the lady that was on the table, I think from memory, she had some neck pain and some hip pain. Both of them went away. And so we weren't using an acupuncture point. So again, this backs up your
this non-needle point, just
commentary
any
of
point.
non-needle points. So my thinking is, when you look at it, if we just for a moment, and please don't strangle me right now, if we just for a moment throw out Chinese medicine theory and say, well, let's just look at this in terms of neural theory.
Yeah.
Okay. So once upon a time, one of the concepts that as to how acupuncture worked was it was tapping into the nervous system.
Yep.
So when you have a nerve, you know this, but some of these guys might not. When you have a nerve that comes out of the spine, it supplies a region of muscle, which is called a myotome. So you end up with you see these pictures of these lines coming down the arm, and that'll be a myotome. And a dermatome. So dermatome is a skin region. So basically, when that nerve comes out of the spine, it supplies a particular region. So one of the theories behind acupuncture kind of thinking, because we've got meridians which travel in a very similar pathway to those dermatomes and myotomes, is that we're just tapping into that neural pathway, right? So that makes sense.
Yep.
But there's an organ in Chinese medicine called the sanjiao, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so the sanjiao is this amorphous organ. It's always been considered like a concept, not so much a specific object or identity, right?
Yep.
And so Sanjiao is about fluid dynamics. Yeah?
Yep. Definitely.
Okay. So in 2015, a bunch of Western scientists, I think it was in California, came out and said, we've discovered this new organ called the interstitium.
Yeah.
And they said the interstitium is the fluid that flows outside the cells within the fascia. And what they said is that they found that it has neurotransmitters and immune regulators. And we all at that moment went, oh, that's the Sanjiao.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if that's the case, then the fluid in the body is also part of that nervous system. The nerves that come out of the spine are just a structural influence, but they will then influence the fluid. And so the concept that this ties into why my system should and does work, but this is the theory behind it, is you should be able to put a needle anywhere and be able to affect any part of the body, because it doesn't just run through the fascia. It doesn't just run along that nerve pathway. It's almost like dropping a pebble in a pond and getting a ripple effect.
Right.
And when you do this technique, this is how I came to this, because I starting from a massage background. And even when I was doing tan, rather than saying to someone, does it feel better? I would palpate them top to toe and I would make sure their sore spot changed. But because I also have that massage background, you consider that if someone has sore neck, they may also have something going on in the pecs, or maybe something in the upper thoracics, or even something in the hip, or even something in the foot. And so if we don't identify those things and treat all of them at once, then we're only treating the symptom. We're not treating the holistic pathway. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. And I'm sure people watching this, that can make sense to you. Like you might actually they would get some kind of relief at the treatment.
Yeah.
But it very quickly just sort of comes back. It's almost like as soon as they get off the table, all those fascial connections sort of go back, and it's like, oh shit, it's all tightening up again.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know, and yeah, look, no, that I mean, sometimes that's where we say, oh, well, you need many treatments, and sometimes they do, right? Because those connections want to go back to how they were. It's the muscle memory thing, and
absolutely.
Yeah,
but also too, like just as a really simple example to kind of reinforce that, if I'm I'm sitting obviously, but say I'm standing, for instance, and say this right shoulder is a problem and it's dropped, I actually literally have to lift my hip to stop myself falling over, right?
Yeah, you do. Yep.
If I just drop that shoulder, then I'll start to tilt in this direction.
Yep.
So structurally, my body says, okay, that shoulder's dropped. I need to lift that hip to counterbalance it so he doesn't fall over. But what if the reason why the shoulder's a problem is the hip was raised in the first place?
Yeah.
If you don't treat the hip, then the shoulder's going to keep coming back. So it's a kind of this is the explanation I give to clients to explain to them why I'm not just treating their symptom, but I'm treating, and why I'm not putting needles in the area where they've got the problem.
Yeah, because it is the simple explanation to that. It just can flare it.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing too for me is, because I like to palpate, I want to know where the problem has changed. And if I've got a bunch of needles in there, it's really hard for me to do that.
Oh, you can't. Yeah. And plus, once needles go in, even if it's what they're supposed to be doing, that your body's tightening up because of that.
Yeah,
it's having a reaction because of that.
Yeah. I feel like the area is already aggravated, so why do we want to aggravate it more? And look, I understand the thinking behind it. If you're doing a local treatment, you're trying to tap into that local or peripheral nerve pathway. But for me, what we're trying to do essentially is tap into the central nervous system. So the central nervous system is in the brain and the spine, but it also lives in that same house as the endocrine system. So if we can influence the central nervous system, and the way that I kind of explain that to patients is, if I put a needle in your hand, but I can get something to change below your shoulder, then I know your central nervous system is involved, because we've gone past the peripheral nerve, which is that nerve that just comes out of the spine.
Right.
So if I go past that to the central nervous system, then I'm accessing all of the other nerves.
Yep.
So I'm again getting this holistic, much more powerful effect.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah. It excites me so much.
Yeah, it is really cool. And I think it's good to have this conversation, because part of it is what you said at the very beginning, where part of it's practitioners want to they want to please, but they want to help.
They want to give people value
it's
for
like
money.
If you have a thing that's wrong with you, you touch that thing, and you almost like want someone to pay attention to that thing. And it's a psychological thing where you feel like, oh, but they didn't pay. They did. Now, if it goes away, you'll know.
Yeah,
Right? You'll feel better,
exactly.
and you'll be like, okay, great. Like, I haven't done Dr. Tan's course, but I just read the book, right? And
Yeah.
the first time I ever did it, because I used to be the stock standard TCMer,
Yeah.
like, okay, your shoulder's hurting, we do the shoulder, we do, and I hadn't done any of that. And a lot of my friends were getting into that colleagues were getting into that sort of stuff. And I had a car accident, like I'd totaled my car. Like, not a bad one, but enough. I was still functional, but I couldn't drive my car. So I'm sitting on the train after teaching all these classes. And I just keep going. Like, that's the kind of person I am. So I had the car accident the day before and I was like, I'm fine. And I'm sitting on this train and I had to go. I used to run this homeless food shelter in Midland. So I had to go from the city to Midland to help these homeless people at like 8:00 at night after these classes. And I sat there and I was like, in the pace of the train, I was like, oh my God, like, all this is really hurting. Like, my shoulder's really, I think it was my shoulder or something was hurting. And I was like, I had to not keep going, go and do this homeless food thing. And I just had some needles in my bag and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try that tan thing. And I had the book on my thing and I sit there in the train and I was like, okay, I'm just going to try to find a sore point on my leg. And like, I'm just going to do that. Cause what can you do on the train? Like, and there are all these people, like, it doesn't bother me because I'm a weird person anyway. But so I'm doing that and I was like, oh man, like, this is actually going away, like, on your own self. And I was like, oh, this is, wow. Like, and you just, because for me, as a what I would do is resort to the cupping. Like, I'll just go,
sure.
oh, it'll be good. I'll just cut myself. And but I couldn't do that on the train. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, oh, there's something to this. I'm gonna, like, that was my first experience on yourself.
It's
thinking,
a real light bulb, isn't it?
And you can feel it, and you've done nothing here.
Yeah.
But you can feel, and you're just like, oh wow.
It's an absolute light bulb, and that's the thing that for me, when I saw him doing the seminar, and the results that he was getting, and it's not this, smoke and mirrors kind of thing. He was getting significant change in people, and I thought, I don't ever remember seeing anyone do that at college, and I've never been able to do that myself in using TCM, and so I just went, all right, I'm just going to jump in boots and all.
We were kind of taught. Because when you and I probably went to college around the same time, I would say, but like, not the same college, obviously, but we were. It just wasn't. I think it was just because there was no internet. It just wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
it just
that's
wasn't
right.
really known. So it's not like I blame the school for not teaching you. It just wasn't a thing that was in practice. It just
very few textbooks too.
Exactly. Like, there wasn't. People. Kids these days don't know the troubles. There was no YouTube to teach you. There was nothing. There was no exposure to those things. You were at the mercy of who would come and do a seminar, and you would grasp onto that. You would grasp onto that seminar for dear life.
And in many cases, we didn't get a lot of people coming to Australia from overseas.
Heaps,
Certainly, particularly even in the last few years, I have to tip my hat to Scott Ling from Sustain Health Academy. He's, he brought out Wei Chi Young to Australia.
Yeah.
So he's brought out some absolute titans of the industry, which is really awesome for practitioners here.
Yeah. Yeah. The only distal thing I remember hearing about, which never really saw practiced, was, these 2 points for your back and
Logen and
Shui something.
Yeah. I've forgotten them too.
Even the two extra points. There we go. That's terrible that I can't remember.
XEU 1 and 2.
And one was for anyway, your neck and your lower back.
Yeah.
And we were told, sometimes they do this in the Chinese hospitals, when people have a bad, and they just like get them to move and they put the needles in, and or Holshi, like doing that one, and then you get them to move, and I remember seeing that in a Chinese hospital, and I was like, what they told me was true. Like, they're not lying down on a bed; they were just literally just hobbling around, and they're told to had 2 needles in their hand. They were told to, waltz up and down the hall until their back came good, and it did come good. So I did see that used there like that, but that was it. There was no other points for other things. That was it. So you were like, oh, the guy comes in with the back pain. Oh, I can try this cool technique. That's what it was like. And there was no thought that I don't know why we didn't think like that. Like if it could do it for that, why isn't there a point for you?
Yeah,
Like why didn't people? I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
so I guess that's where Tan and those other people got that I like you
That's
have to
certainly
think
been
that
a
through.
bit part of my
Yeah.
evolution in terms of my own. Again, essentially, probably discoveries of things that are already around, or not that I've necessarily read them or whatever. But I remember once looking at, I was trying to treat the gallbladder channel for something. I can't remember what it was, maybe ITB or something like that, and I was using the heart to treat it because heart balances gallbladder in Tan's system, and I was like, it's just and I'd done everything to try and balance the gallbladder, and it just didn't seem to be working, and I thought, well, what can I try that's a bit different? And I went, well, if heart balances gallbladder and spleen balances heart, then maybe spleen will balance gallbladder. And so I did it and it worked. And that was the beginning of like this discovery. And I remember talking to Delphine Armand about this, who is one of Dr. Tan's direct students, and she
Yep.
now teaches under the banner of CUN. And I went to one of the courses with her and I said, I discovered this thing. And she goes, yeah, actually every channel treats every channel, and every part of the body treats every part of the body. So every point should treat every part of the body. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
It
right.
was like this, and it was too much at the time.
Yeah.
It was just too big. So I was like,
That ball.
ran off into the hills and went, no, I'm just going to work
Yeah.
on the spleen
Yeah.
heart connection.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so that sounds cool. And for them practitioners watching this or students watching this, because heaps of students watch this, how do they learn? Like, how does it? How do you learn that system? Like, as in, it's not just. Is it as easy as if we work on one point? Like, let's say you didn't know anything
Yeah.
and you just were like, all right, we're going to just do this
No.
point and keep on banging away until something
Look,
happens.
I'd love to say yes, but I don't. I think it's a bit of a stretch, and certainly the way that I teach the workshops, because I use one point basically, and so I show this to practitioners, and they all freak out, going, "Oh my God, how does this?" I can't do that. It's too much. Blah blah blah. And I always just say, look, just come back to the principles.
Yep.
Don't try and just use one point and figure it out yourself. Just come back to the principles, and eventually over time, if you use the right needle technique, then gradually you'll be able to get more and more effect with each of the needles. So you might go from using 20 needles to 8.
Great.
And then
Yeah.
8 to 5, and then 5 to 3, and then 3 to 1. So
Yep.
I normally recommend that. But certainly for me, the base of everything that I've learned, I learnt Tan first.
Okay.
And that was really important to me. And I remember doing a seminar with Brad Wisnant, and he was teaching Tung, and he talked about, he was the only person I'd come across when talking about Tung acupuncture that mentioned the balancing aspect of the channels, so the different systems within the channels. Whereas otherwise Tung becomes this kind of similar to TCM. This point treats these particular things, and you're like, well, why does it treat that?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just end up
It's
learning.
like, this is the point for headache.
Yeah.
Where's my headache point?
Yeah.
Like,
So you just learn it as
Indicative.
opposed to understanding the concept. And when you understand the concept, it's like martial arts. You learn the form to learn the concept, and then you don't need the form anymore. So it's that same principle. So if anyone is looking at doing anything, I would suggest learning Tan first. And if you want to then go on and learn Tung, that would be good. I've got 2 students who came and observed with me in the last few years. Both of them were still studying, and both of them have basically switched over to, I trained them in my method, and they've basically been using that straight out of the gates.
Great.
So Elena, who started working with me this year, she came to our workshop in Newcastle early this year. She was observing with me for about a year prior. She started with me in May, and she's got 43 clients next week.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And she's using one needle.
Okay, so this is the next question for people that are like new students, even experienced acupuncturists that are like, right, want to improve their business, or like it's good for it's an easier model to run, isn't it, for business?
Yeah, definitely an
run your
easier
clinic.
model. So I originally was very the idea of running more than one room is like the devil's work, because it means you're not giving people enough.
Yeah.
And I've since learnt that I'm not a counsellor. We spend a lot of time trying to create space for people. There's a lot of things that we try to add into it, the way that we work to give people what they need. But when you look at your rate and what you charge and how many hours you need to work to pay the bills and do the things you need to do, it's a really tough game.
Yeah. Well, just look at what people like physios and even osteopaths do.
Yeah, I just...
Like, you don't even sit down. Like, you just run into the room and you're sitting on the couch. And, you know what I mean? Like, you're not having a chat every time. And
absolutely.
There's a lot of faffing around that acupuncturists
But
do.
also those guys like my osteo, I was talking to him about the sort of numbers that I do. So I'd see 65 people a week in 3 days.
Okay.
I run 3 rooms.
Yep.
I was talking to my osteo about that, and he's like, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. And I'm like, once upon a time, I thought I should have done osteo. But he's manually working all day. He treats people every half hour. He might get away with seeing sort of 14 or 15 people a day, but I can see... With a receptionist, I can see 25 in a day.
Yep.
So it's like, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
But I can make a very good living. I can do less and achieve more in that process. So I'm getting solid results with my clients. I'm still able to provide space with them in terms of their grandmother died or something like that. So I'm still able to spend time with them and have that conversation, but I don't get caught up into it.
But you're also just able to help more people.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Seeing you're helping 25 people a day rather than helping 10 people a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And yes, for some people, it's just it's the capacity, not just their clinic capacity, but their mental. I know I'm talking about, like, a lot of new students tell me like they struggle the mental capacity of seeing 10 people a day.
Yeah,
right?
it's
And
interesting.
some of that is you worrying about, like, am I doing this right? Like, I'm making it's hard when you're first a new practitioner because
there's a
every
lot to think
patient's
about.
new.
Yeah.
All patients are new to you. You've probably never seen those conditions before, and I get that. It's hard. It's overwhelming when you first start, but yeah, having a system that allows you to, like, if there's people that want to be helped, because what will happen is for most practitioners will get to a point where they just have to stop taking new patients because there's not enough space, either for them, the hours they want to work, or the beds in their clinic, or the room, and and there's people that want to be helped by you. So it's not necessarily about the money that, I'm rolling in the cash, like cash, but you're helping as many people as you possibly can. Like, that's a good thing to do for the world.
Absolutely. And I think, part of what I see part of my role as a practitioner is to educate the community about what we can do. And so if I'm able to see 65 people a week and those people are like going, holy moly, this is like crazy. He's only using one needle. They're telling a whole bunch of other people. So now I'm in a situation where I've got another practitioner working for me. She's building up. She's almost at capacity now. The other practitioner that was sitting in with me, I'm referring out to her as well. And so we're actually building our community. So when I'm really busy, the great thing is when I can refer out to someone else that I think is really good at what they do, and then they get busier, and then it just starts to look after itself.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So would you treat people how often with this technique? Like, let's say an average, do they need to come in once every few days? Do they...
Yeah, look, even with Tan, he used to always talk about you need to probably treat people 2 or 3 times a week.
Yep.
I never did that. I don't know why. I just felt that if I can get away with doing it once a week, that's my baseline.
Yeah, so
once
most
a week.
people will come in once a week. And
most people are coming once a week. One of the things I have found since moving into this style in probably the last 5 years or so, people seem to be getting resolved faster.
Yep.
And so rather than I'm booked out for X amount of weeks, now I'm turning over clients a lot faster.
Yep.
And I'm able to see new clients a lot easier. And one of the things that happens if you get really booked out is, as I'm sure you know, you get a new client come in and you need to see them weekly and you're like, well, I can't see you for 4 weeks. And so you're actually not looking after that person. So the beauty of this style is I find in some respects, there's a higher churn rate, which I actually prefer because if you're seeing the same people all the time, you start to get...
but you're literally helping more people.
Yeah.
You're seeing 65 people a week, but every 3 weeks there are different 65 people, something like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, something like that.
Not obviously, but like that's good. You're helping, there's more, you're helping the world.
Yeah. And I do think, Tan method and Tung method and neoclassical all have that same capacity. One of the things that I do find with students of any style is the difficulty they have in actually embracing something different.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, that's everyone's resistant to change. That's human nature,
yeah.
right? Yeah, but sorry, you keep going.
Sorry, I did notice with tan particularly. I think I did tan because I only did one with him because he passed away after that, and then after that I was doing it through the Delphine. I think I did maybe 5 or 6 of the foundations, and the amount of people that I met at different courses along the way, different seminars or conferences that I went to, that kind of said, oh man, how good was this tan stuff? It was like crazy, and that they would say, oh look, it just didn't really work for me, and the thing that I've found is if you're going to learn a new style, you really need to drop into it and do only that. That's what Tan always said. If you think this has got legs, then on Monday, go back to your clinic and only do this. And the clients, the practitioners that I've had that have done my workshops, the ones that have done that have been the ones that have taken it and run with it. So it's this thing that you got to embrace it. You got to face your fear, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of it's the fear of the unknown, because as a practitioner, when you've done something a few times, there's almost this idea, this thing in your head. Well, I know that works. That's my little. That's my little. Or I know. This is. I've seen that work before, so I trust that. And you do want to help people. You do. You're like I don't know any practitioners that are like, don't do Chinese medicine for the money. Like they don't. The glory, the fame, the fabulous prizes. There's none of those things. But
I think there is, but it's just not as common.
No, but I mean, as in that's not the first reason, right? Like people go
reason.
into surgery because they want to be, I don't know, chop people open or something, and there's some glory and fame in that, or something, right? There are people, but for the most part, people don't go into Chinese medicine because of the status. They go into it because they want to help people.
They want to make a difference.
Obviously, you want to make money, make a living doing it, but anyway, what I'm saying is, I found that when I changed my herbs, and a lot of practitioners. So a lot of people on the channel know that I do classical Chinese medicine now in terms of the herbs. So maybe 8 years ago, even probably more than that now, I started the course, and I remember sitting in that course thinking, oh, this is the shit. This is it.
This is Arno's stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, Arno's course, Arno Solusis course. And I only known about it because my teacher had done that course. And so in Chinese medicine, there's about roughly 400 herbs. I love to say there's one for every day of the year. Same as the acupuncture, 365. Oh, there's exactly 365 points on there. Anyway, so, I came back from that course, and I sat down and I was like, right, I'm going to have as in the first weekend, right? You don't know what you're doing, right? From the first weekend, like this is the first.
It's
weekend
overwhelming from
of
what I
3
understand.
years. Oh but it's like mind blowing as well.
Yeah.
And you sit there thinking, similar to what's the same with the acupuncture, where you think, fuck. One is, I wish I learned this at Chinese medicine school, and this is what I thought I was learning at Chinese medicine school, but then it wasn't, and I've just realised that all the stuff I've been doing from now, and I almost felt like it was somewhat unethical for me to continue doing what I had been doing now that I know this new thing exists.
That's a really great way of putting it. I like that.
And so what I did is I went through all my herbs and I threw all the TCM ones in the bin.
Wow.
So I could not use them.
Oh,
I was like, right, Xiao Ku Chow in the bin. You're never being used again.
That is fantastic. Big ups.
Now, I didn't throw them away. I gave them to a TCM practitioner because they were valuable to somebody, and I didn't bin them. But I threw them. I separated them all out, and I put them all in this big box. And I called a practitioner. I said, "Do you want all these herbs?" Because I was like, if these are here, they're going to tempt me. So then the next person comes in, and I was like, okay. Normally, I would just use let's say they've got a pain, and you'll be like, oh, shui fu ju yu tongue, or okay, a cold and flu. They got a sore throat. Oh, Jin, they're going to have what's that one that Chinese medicine's?
Sengji Yin or Yin Chao San.
Yeah, Yin Chao San. Oh, Yin Chao San. And then you're like, okay, no, they're having Xiao Chai. You're like scared of using the ginger, right? Because you're like, oh, I might eat them up more. Like with this ginger, I remember being like that. And I was thinking, oh, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to, if I'm going to do this, I have to commit to doing this. I'd already paid for the course up front, the whole year of it. So I was like, I'm definitely going to do this. And I was like, I don't think there's another way to learn this than just giving this a try. And obviously at the same time, you have to balance that between ethical, like you're not going to do something dangerous. Oh, I don't know what that is. But I knew enough at that point to go, this is this is the best right thing for them within
great.
my knowledge that I know. And obviously a cold and a flu is a bit different to someone with a serious, massive condition they've had for 10 years or something. And maybe you have to ask your teacher for some help with that stuff.
Yeah.
But if you, and I've seen this time and time again when with ICAM, the course that I do, the students that like you go to their clinics and you can see if they've got some of those TCM herbs there, or you look on their, like they tell you what prescript, or they might share a case and they'll be like, oh, they had yin chat. What? You're not doing the system. You're not practicing it properly. Like that's the first.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right? And so it's a little bit like that. Like,
Yep.
There's that tendency, I guess, to go, oh, maybe I'm not doing it right. Like, or the patient thinks, what are you doing? Like, you've got to have that confidence to tell them, right, this one thing is going to be, the one needle thing is going to be what we, or maybe you've gone from, 10 or 20 needles to 10 needles. And you've got to have the confidence in yourself that I have to, I have to start somewhere, and that somewhere has to start today.
I think that really highlights a big issue that we face in our industry in terms of confidence.
Yep.
Like I've pretty much felt through my entire career like I don't really feel like I have any idea what's going on or how this really works. I mean, obviously I've got some idea, but in the grand scheme of things, like I go to conferences and they're talking about stuff and I'm like, I find this really
flux capacitor.
Yeah, and
121 gigawatts. What? Yeah.
Absolutely.
The technical jargon.
Absolutely.
Mad.
And so I'm like, what is that again? Yep. And look, I've been in the game now in practice all up 31 years, and for me to go to a conference and be, sitting there listening to someone and it's just bouncing off my forehead because I'm like, I really don't know what you're talking about. It kind of highlights the fact that it doesn't matter how long you've been in practice. You will always feel to a degree like I'm not sure what I'm doing. Different elements. You will have a level of confidence, but I think we all fall into the trap of expecting I'm going to get to this point one day where I've got it all worked out and it's going to be super cool and super easy. And one of the things that, the feedback I get a lot from practitioners that attend the workshops is I'm really honest in terms of like, I don't always get this right. It doesn't always work. I don't know if it's me or it's them or whatever it is, but don't expect that this is a methodology that's going to work absolutely 100% of the time. And also don't expect that I'm going to get it 100% of the time, because if you come across anyone that says that, then run from them, because they're not telling you the truth. Yeah. Because I don't know anyone, even the greats of the industry, that don't say, this is my current theory on how this all works, and I haven't come across a better one yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I like your idea that, well, not idea, but the principle of like you've got to know the theory behind it.
Yes.
Because then you can puzzle it out. That's what I found with the herbs system that was different to the TCM thing, was like, you give a herb formula and they don't get better, and then you're like, oh, what now? Okay, we just pick the next one on the list. It's a little bit like that sometimes. Well, okay, there's like, you in these acupuncture texts, they're like, oh, shoulder pain, there's like 15 points there. Okay, the students are like, well, do we put all the 15 points in? Or like, okay, we use the first 6, and then it was because I didn't put all of them in. Like, but there's no rhyme or reason to what, if it didn't work, what happened. Now, if you're only using one thing at a time, then that one thing is either doing something or not doing something, right? And I reckon that this is just me hazarding guess here, that if you're honing it down from, let's say 20 needles, 10 needles, 5 needles, 3 needles, now we're just doing 1 needle, and you're finding the results are quicker for people, and you're seeing enough patients to make a judgment on that. Because it's different if you're seeing 5 people a week or something and you're just like, here, there and everywhere. But if you're seeing lots of, you've got a bigger cohort to kind of, and it's only you doing the treatments and all that, some of those points that people are doing are possibly making people worse. Sorry, but that's, don't you reckon?
Look, my current,
how do you know?
Yeah, my current thinking is, and again, this is just a perspective. I can't kind of give evidence on this, but my current perspective is the beauty of 1 point over 5 is that the body only has to focus on one thing. Yes. It's not distracted by 5. Yep. And so whilst they might technically be beneficial points, it may potentially be just overstimulating the system, and so it becomes overwhelmed and maybe doesn't go back to a reset point. I don't know.
I think I tell this just to new students because they are often in the clinic. I haven't supervised student clinics for a while, but when I used to, you'd know, and for me, that used to be the case when I was a student. You want to practice a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So because you're new and you're like, oh God, okay, here comes awesome. You haven't seen a patient for a while. You're like, Johnny's here. Right, he's getting 30 needles. He's getting like head to toe, like cupping. He's
Do
getting
some fine
mopsa.
needling.
He's getting everything. Like because you want to practice those things, and then
Yeah.
you teach yourself those methods in school.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh God, okay, Johnny's come in again. He's going to feel like he wasn't, he's missing out if he doesn't get front and back treatment and this and that and everything that he had last week. And so it's part of it is like you almost teach yourself what to do in those student days, right? Like
absolutely.
And you want to practice. You haven't had that much chance necessarily, and you're like, oh good, okay, I need to because I would see some students have these needles in in patients at the student clinic, and you go in the room and you'd be like, oh, that wasn't on the list what we said you were going to do. And they were like, oh, I needed to practice like stomach 36. Like they wouldn't say in front of the patient, but they're like, I needed to, I've added these extra things in, right? Yeah.
There's a really good pump for going into a student clinic, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you have to learn. Oh, you mean no
for a patient.
Patients? Well, they beware. Enter at your own risk.
There's a reason they're only $10.
Well, yeah. Anyway, that's not. They don't all do that. I know.
I know.
Make it sound so bad.
I'm joking.
Yeah. And look,
you've got to learn
no
somewhere, and it's a really good
well.
opportunity for people who can't afford treatments to come in and get some care.
Definitely.
So but you have to learn things in the process.
Yeah, and that wasn't every scenario. That was just I've just observed that many times, and I used to tell students. I said it's like imagine like you're there to come to work for me today, and I say, oh great, I'm so glad you're here. Could you just make me a coffee? Oh, and by the way, empty that bin. And at the same, oh, can you open the front door? And can you do this? And can you do that? And you're just like, fuck, what do you want me to do, Brie? And like every needle that you put in is telling the patient, do this, do this, do this, do this.
Oh, I like that.
Right?
That's great.
And that's sometimes where you get people that are really sick after a treatment when they've had like 20 or 30 needles and they say, oh, I was so drained, right? Like, I'm not sure.
Got a migraine or had a really bad headache or whatever.
Yeah, and some practitioners don't feel the pulse, and they're like, the patient's so yang deficient, and then they're like, they've needled them, with all these, and they shouldn't have had any needles at all, really, like if they're that weak.
Yeah.
And that's another conversation, but like, and then they've had this bad experience that, like, so as a herbalist, now I get patients that. Like I say to them, sometimes do you want to have some, like, oh, do I have to have the acupuncture? No, you don't have to have the acupuncture. You just have the herbs. And I've started to switch my practice now, probably, I'd say 50% now just have herbs.
Yeah, wow, that's
even
great.
more than that, right?
Yeah, great.
And then, because it's also a thing where you don't know what's working if you're doing both, right?
Yes.
So I would prefer the patients to either have one or the other sometimes, or in my mind, I know acupuncture does this and I know herbs do that. Sometimes you know that, but when you're treating a new patient, you're throwing a spanner in the works with everything you do, with every herb, with every needle, so the less you can do, the better. Like it's such a...
I agree. It's
a good idea. Great.
Nice one.
Yeah.
I'm getting some great... I'm learning some great things today. This is awesome. Yeah. It's fantastic.
I'm learning too.
That's the beauty of having conversations like this.
With lovely people.
Absolutely.
Okay. So so we talked about maybe people who are thinking about learning this and incorporating it in.
Yep.
And then if they're in Australia, they can obviously do your courses. Maybe you can speak a bit about how people get involved or get to know what you do, how they find you.
Yeah, so we've got a group page on Facebook, Evolve Acupuncture Training. At the moment, we're running things through the clinic website, which is Evolve Natural Medicine, but we're just about to build a workshop-specific website, which will be evolveacupuncturetraining.com. Basically, at the moment, we've done one in New Zealand. I'm doing one in Japan next year, which is exciting. Yes,
people could get a skiing holiday, and
that's why I'm doing
CPD extraordinaire. There you go.
So we're looking at probably branching out a little bit into overseas over time, but because I want to continue practicing, I don't want to overdo it in terms of trying to do too much, because certainly teaching can be
it takes a lot out
draining.
of you.
Yeah. So just trying to make sure I look after myself in that process. So at the moment we're doing most of ours in Australia. So Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne. We've got here in Perth, obviously Adelaide.
It's a 3-day workshop.
Yeah, it's a 3-day workshop.
And is that enough for people to be able to come away from that and start using it in their clinic?
Yeah, it is. It is. We've had a lot of feedback from practitioners who have basically just taken it and run with it.
Yeah, great.
Sometimes they might say they come back and they might come back to me and go, look, I'm now only using like 3 needles instead of 20. So like for me, I don't really care because everyone's got to find their own way with it. But look, I've had a lot of people that have just taken it and run with it and basically come back to me 3 or 4 months later and said, this is all I'm using now. So look, again, I'm not, it's important that people don't kind of think that this is the be all and end all. This is just a method. And I'm certainly not tooting my horn in the process either. The main reason I'm doing this is because I think it's really important for us to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And of course, as I said, there are also, C1 is one mob. Eileen Hahn is doing some Dr. Tan stuff as well. There's all the Henry McCann, Brad Wisnant doing Tung, and then again also neoclassical. Yeah,
there's so many systems of Chinese medicine, and going back to that smorgasbord. And I think sometimes as a practitioner, a new graduate, you've got to try a few things to see what's going to fit for you too.
Yeah.
So it's good to do these seminars, go a bit more in depth, and then, at some point you do have to decide, am I going to do this? Because otherwise you won't learn it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You have to dip your feet in the water a little bit to see, is there some substance to this? Like, there's often a gap, I find, like in your practice, like you'll be like, certain types of, you don't feel like you're good enough at something.
Yep.
Or, there's a need there, and then you go and you think, oh yeah, this just, either it just clicks with you, it makes sense, that teacher, you feel that rapport with them. Because you've got to think, am I going to learn from this person?
Absolutely.
Is there substance to this? Do I like them?
Yeah. Look, I think that's a huge one. Like, I've been to heaps of seminars where I'm just like, I just really don't.
Yep.
I don't particularly like the way you're approaching this. It doesn't fit with my values.
Yep,
and so
true.
I'm much less likely to take that on.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, same as when you listen to a podcast or something, sometimes people's tone of voice and stuff
Can be,
like, not that would stop you from really learning it, but sometimes you just, something is just doesn't fit. How do you go in the clinic when people are doing this, like when you see a patient for the first time, and you kind of, do you have to let them? What?
Yeah, I've got a particular thing that I say to them.
Okay, to get them to make sure that they do the proper treatment is what I'm. Right?
So are we talking about me treating someone or practitioners treating?
Well, we can talk about both of those.
So for me,
in.
if I get have a patient come in and they go, I love acupuncture, I've been getting acupuncture for years, I've just moved to Newcastle or something like that. I just say to them, look, you've had this before. I know you've had acupuncture before, but this is a really different style.
Okay.
I guarantee it's pretty unlikely you're going to have had this before because it's a very unusual style. I don't use a lot of needles, and it might seem really strange to you, but bear with me. I'm going to show you how it changes, and that's the beauty, because I palpate everyone from top to toe, and I keep palpating them until all of the tight spots have changed. So I'm able to get their, shall we say, buy-in or their connection to the treatment in terms of they can feel the change.
Yep.
And so, it'll be like, oh, wow, can you feel how that next change? And they're like, oh, my God, how did you do that? How did you do that, putting a needle in my foot? And then I'll explain to them my kind of nervous system explanation.
So how long does it take you with a patient the first time you see them to do that palpation?
So I basically, everyone, regardless of new clients or repeat clients, I'm with them for 10 minutes. So I take the pulse. It's probably not the same style as you, but you take the pulse. It pretty much tells you a lot of what's going on. So I'll tell them what's going on. So you're a bit constipated. Yep. How did you know that? Oh, you're not sleeping well. Yep. How did you know that? That's a Jimmy Chang pulse.
Yep.
And so I use his and I certainly don't profess to be an expert in that. So don't anyone at the workshops we do ask me to teach you that, because it's not I feel like
not his
a
bag.
minnow in that.
But it's good that you still incorporate pulse
Yeah,
diagnosis.
so pulse is a big part of it, and so the beauty of that is I can cut through a lot of the conversation where someone will say, "Oh, well, when I was 5, I had the blah blah blah," and for me, a lot of that stuff is not relevant. So I'm able to cut through. This is what's going on. They're able to confirm it. I might ask them a couple of more questions, and quite often, I might even do that on the table.
Yep.
I'm doing that more and more these days, where I'll take the pulse, have a look at the tongue while they're on the table, and as I'm palpating, I'm asking them questions.
Okay. So there's less sitting and talking and more palpating in the whole every time you see a patient.
Yep, pretty much. Yep.
Yep.
So 10 minutes, and then into the next room, take the other patient out. Excuse me.
How long would you leave the needle in for, or is it something where you...
I normally leave it in for about half an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you come back and stimulate it, or you just leave it?
No, I just leave them. Yeah. So I always say, look, this is your time to stop. If someone's really cranked up and you can see they're like uber either anxious or big thinkers, I always say to them, I want you to just imagine that this room is like a vault, and that everything that's going on in your life right now is outside this room, and this is just a vacant space, and your brain is vacant with it, and this is just a chance for you to just lie and be for a while. Now, as we know, sometimes someone that's really anxious maybe can't quite get to that, but for me, I always think about it, we're just starting a process, and just even if we can just shave off 10%, or even 5%, and each time we're able to do that within a treatment or the conversation that we have, or get them to do a little Dantian breathing or something like that, we're just building resources. And I think this is a thing that both practitioners and patients fall into the trap of. We expect to be able to do something that quickly.
Yes.
So I do a lot of work with clients with meditation, and you say, "Oh, have you done meditation before?" "Oh, no, I can't meditate." And I go, "What do you mean?" And they go, "Well, I tried it once, and I just couldn't stop my mind." And so I always think about, I remember there was a study I read when I was first at college, and I've never been able to find it since, but they plugged a whole bunch of Buddhist monks in to check their brain waves to see how many of them could achieve the deep alpha wave state, which is considered that meditative state. And what they found was that these guys that meditate every day for hours and have been doing it for decades could only achieve that deep alpha wave state 40% of the time. And so I tell that to my clients, and they go, "Oh, so
even a Buddhist monk can't get what you think you can get in one treatment."
Yeah,
one go.
Yeah, exactly. So I say it's, and certainly there's been more research in the last probably 10 years or so that I've sort of looked at, where they're talking about the power of meditation is not the alpha wave state. It's the act of noticing that your mind is wandering and bringing it back. So you're building synaptic pathways. You're building a resource in that process. So I explain that to clients, and they go, "Oh, so then they're much more likely to engage in the process and just start that process." And I say, "Look, I've been meditating for 20 years. I have days where I want to peel my face off because I'm really struggling with it, So it's allowing patients and also us as practitioners to recognize what we're talking about. You can't expect to get it all just like that.
Yeah. Well, that's why they call it a practice, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's a practice
Exactly.
Of continually working towards it.
We live in this credit card era of I want the thing and I buy it, and I want the thing, so I expect I'm going to do it once and expect I'm going to be the best tennis player in the world because I picked up a tennis racket and a ball, and it's like, it's just not how things work. And so it's teaching both us as practitioners and our clients and our patients to be mindful that change takes time, and it requires consistent effort.
Yeah. So how do you go about with patients, like staying the course with the treatment? Because that's often an issue for many practitioners. They find people come in once and then it wasn't for me. Is there something particular that you do or that you teach as well that to help the patient stay the course with what's needed to
look?
carry on?
I think there's one really big issue that practitioners consistently don't recognise, and having done teaching the business training for many years, this was something that came up time and time again. It's what you say to the client in terms of treatment plan. So quite often what we found is practitioners would say to clients, "Oh, so just see how you go." That is like
boo-boo.
it doesn't work, because The problem is clients don't know what to expect. And so they go, oh, well, okay. And you're thinking to them, the reason why you say this is you're thinking, well, if when it starts to come back, then give us a call and come in for a treatment. But you didn't say that, first of all. Number two, what I find is you will get patients that expect it's going to be one treatment and it's going to be sorted.
Yep.
And I'm very quick to disavow clients of that. I always say to them, look, it's really important you understand that this is not a miracle cure. Acupuncture is incredibly effective, but it's going to take a period of time. It works essentially as a compound effect. So we might find that you might have some benefit for a couple of days and then you might find the symptoms start to come back. That is completely normal. It doesn't mean that acupuncture hasn't worked. It's just we haven't allowed enough treatments to build momentum so that we're getting longer periods of time without that becoming a problem. We also might find that there's some things that you're doing at home that might be contributing to this.
Oh, might we?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Do we have to change?
I know. It's so hard.
Oh, wow. I thought it would just take away all my issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, I always say to clients, look, if that's your expectation, then this treatment's going to be $4,000.
Yeah.
Because that's
never
how
gonna
much.
need to come in. It's never going to end. Yeah.
So for me, I always say to clients at the end of the session, and even through the session, I'll be talking to them about, look, you've had this for 10 years. It's really important you understand that this is not just going to go away in one treatment. What we want to do is we want to build momentum. So I always say to them at the end of the session, look, based on my experience, I would expect that we'd need to see you, say, 4 to 6 times over 4 to 6 weeks. What we're looking at doing in that period of time is we're wanting to build the change. So we might find again that initially you get some change and it starts to slide back. Ideally, what we're wanting to do is make sure that when you come back each time, you're better than what you were the first time, than the previous time you came in. So that tells us that we're building momentum. And so that's what we're looking for. Now, bear in mind, no one's the same. Everyone's different. So you might find your treatment might be less in terms of frequency and number, and sometimes we might find it might be a little bit more. I'm not God. I can't figure all that out straight out of the gates. But look, I've been doing this for a while. I know what I'm doing. I'm pretty confident we should be able to get you where you need to go. And practitioners always say when they're students, well, I can't, or, first year graduate, I can't say based on my experience or whatever. Just,
you've had one day.
You got to make it.
It's not your first day, probably.
Yeah, well, you've had more experience than the person in the room, right?
Yep.
And so I always think of it in terms of just come up with an idea and say, look, I would expect this amount of treatments over this amount of time. And then I'll say to them, how does that sound to you? And so I'm getting their feedback straight away rather than basically leaving them to go, oh, well, I'll give you a call back. Because one of the things that we found with clients that we hadn't seen for a while, I started to get into a pattern early in my career of ringing them to find out if everything was okay. So I wasn't ringing them to get them to come back necessarily or to, try and string them up to a treatment plan, but more to be able to assess was what I was doing having an impact. And if it wasn't, then I can then at least do something about it. So if I have a client come in, a couple of times and they go absolutely, unequivocally, no change at all, then I will say to them, okay, well, I will treat you for nothing until we get a change.
Okay, how long would you wait until you...
I remember treating a guy 15 times and we had absolutely no change. He had shingles.
How long would you think, let's say now in your practice now, how many sessions with no change would you?
It'd be 2 or 3. I would expect.
Wow. So you'd expect something to happen after 2 or 3.
Yeah. Normally 1, but sometimes there's some variables that come into play. So I treated a guy 15 times with post shingles neuralgia. We had got absolutely no change. I used my style. I used tung. I used tan. I used neoclassical. I used local. I used electro. I did everything I possibly could. So I'm not a purist, but absolutely no change. But this guy still calls me years later and says, I just want to tell you, I've told one of my mates about you, even though you couldn't help me, you were so kind and you were such a good guy that I tell everyone about you. So, I had a shingles patient like that once too as well. And I told my students about it and I was like, mate, this is like every week you feel like you're pulling a new trick out of the bag because you're like, this should be working. Like, and you're so used to, it's such a great profession in that you are used to seeing people get better quickly or quicker than that.
And yeah, that whole thing can be frustrating, and it's good to know that everyone has those scenarios where
absolutely.
there's complex things happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other thing I think is also important to note in this is when a client comes in and says there's no change, you need to question that.
Yeah.
So not in a challenging way, but just okay. So you've still got the pain in the neck, in the right side of the neck. Yeah, I've still got the pain. So when do you get it most? When do you find? Is it constant? Oh no, it's not constant. It's intermittent. And if you're taking good notes, you'll have noted that it was constant before.
Yeah.
And so then you can identify that actually it has changed. Because one thing I find, particularly with pain, is there are some people that have two switches: pain, not pain. And there are some people that have a 1 to 10. They're like, oh, it's getting better. But some people, if they feel any pain, they go, no, it hasn't changed.
Yeah, that's good to recognise.
And so those sorts of things. And you would do the same thing with, menstrual cycles, sleep, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So tell me what's happening now, just to really nail it down as to whether they're getting no change or they've just still got the problem and they haven't identified it.
Yeah. Heaps of patients like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of people aren't really necessarily very body aware, are they?
No. And also, like, you're thinking about all these things that are wrong with you when they're bothering you. And then I've had patients before where you're like, oh, how's it going? And they're like, oh, not much has changed. Everything's just kind of the same. And then you go back and you're like, oh, how's those headaches? Oh, I haven't had any headaches. And you're like, oh, but you were having headaches like every week before. No, well, there's not been any headaches. Okay, so they just, and fair enough that, like,
you forget.
Yeah, exactly. They've moved on to the next, another new problem.
They peeled back the layer of the onion.
Exactly, right? Yeah, so
but the other thing,
it's important to take proper notes along the way like that.
Yeah. So the other thing, just going back to your original question about compliance, is I always reiterate with my clients that treatment plan that we've recommended. So, they come in a second time and I go, how are you going? And they go, oh, yeah, it's a bit better, but it started to get a bit sore towards the end of the week. Yeah, okay, so that's not uncommon. That's pretty normal. But you feel better than what you were when you came in. Yeah, I feel better. Okay, so we're on the right track. So we've got to keep our foot on it. We need to keep our foot on the gas and stick to the treatment plan. And you need to give me some room to move to be able to get you where you want to go.
Do you find, like, because I find this, no matter what the system you're using, like when people get busy and especially if they're not doing it twice a week and they're doing it once a week and they miss that second week, they miss a week, and it's like, yeah.
So
so what happened? So how do you handle that?
So one of the things that I was leading to, but I forgot the tail end when I was talking about when I would call clients to find out how they went after the treatment. What I found was 80% of those clients would say, oh my God, I've been meaning to come back and see you, but I just haven't got around to it. Can I make an appointment now? And this has not just been me. I've had this because I've had practitioners work with me or for me for a long time. All of those practitioners find the same issue happens, and they're looking at around between 70-80% of people will go, oh, I just haven't been able to get back for some reason. So one of the things that I recommend for doing that is I'll say to clients, look, we've said 4 treatments over 4 weeks. Do you want to book them all in now? The only reason is if you miss one next week and we can't fit you in, or we're just playing phone tag or whatever, we just make sure we're not going to miss you the following week. You can always cancel any appointments if you need to. That's no issue, but it just means you can pick a time that suits you. We get pretty busy, so it means you're going to make sure you're guaranteed your spot. So that's another way of looking at it.
But let's say, I'm just saying, like with your system, like if people do miss that treatment, does it pull them back to start? Like, no, what you said is great. That's important too, like how to manage that. But like,
look, I don't think they do as much. Like every now and again, someone will come back in and that they've been on holidays for 2 weeks and they'll come back and they go, oh my God, it's been horrendous. It's like, well, I only treated you once, so again, I've only got so much we can do.
There's only so much magic in this bag.
Yeah. And most of the time they're really reasonable about it. They're like, well, I didn't see you for 2 weeks, so, that's probably why. And I'm like, okay, well, let's, we've got some time now. Let's just really keep our foot on the gas and make sure we get you where we need to go. The other thing that I do tend to find is really important with clients is looking at, home advice.
Okay.
So I'm really big for musculoskeletal issues. I do, particularly with musculoskeletal issues. There is not one client that walks out of my door without some kind of stretching or strengthening exercises. So we use a program. It's an online thing, so it sends them videos and all that sort of stuff. So I don't have to spend that time showing them. And it also is able to tell you whether they've been checking and doing it.
Oh, cool.
So it gives a compliance as well.
Yeah, awesome.
So one of the things that really bugs me is the amount of people that come to see me from, and I'm not, please don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing these professions. It's more the particular practitioner that they saw. They've gone to the chiropractor for 6 months, they've been to a physio for 6 months or an osteopath or whatever, and they come in and they're like, I've still got the problem. And I go, have they given you any exercises to do? And they say no. And I'm like, mate, I'm here 1 hour a week that I can spend with you, and you've got all the rest of those hours every week that you're doing the same thing that you've been doing, which is obviously there's something causing the issue, but you're not trying to counterbalance it. So for me, we work a lot with clients with stretching, and we do a lot with clients with diet. Same thing. I get clients that have been to a nutritionist, or not so much a nutritionist, to say a naturopath, and they're not given any dietary advice. Or they're given a piece of paper that's so overwhelming that the client's like, oh, they gave me some stuff, but I just couldn't even figure out how to do it. So we spend a lot of time looking at how we can help that one person with in terms of compliance.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
So the first thing, I get this feedback from practitioners all the time. So they will say, oh, my clients won't do what I tell them to do. And my first thing is, well, you've just told me what your problem is. I never tell anyone what to do. I always explain to them why this is important. I explain to them why I'm giving them the advice, or why that particular system is important, like digestion. Why is digestion important? Inflammation, neurotransmitters, blah, blah, blah. I explain it a bit more depth. But then in terms of musculoskeletal, I'll explain why they've got the problem, why that muscle's tight, why they've got pain, and why the stretching is going to be important for them, and how stretching impacts that particular issue, and why repetition of those exercises is really important in the long term. But I also explain to them that any kind of change that any of us engage with, including myself, is always difficult for us to get rolling with in the first place. So as long as we're just starting the process, so sometimes I might have a client that comes back and I say, how did you go with the stretches? And they go, oh, I've only done them twice. And I say, that's fantastic. You've done them twice more than you did last week. So all we want to do is to build momentum on that, and let's see if next week we can get you to do it more times in the week than not. So that means 4 times. I'll give them advice on, I use my phone as a reminder for me to take my herbs. So I say, this is how I use it on my phone. I don't mark that reminder as complete until I've done it, because I got a terrible memory. So they're the things that I've learnt for my own compliance. And so then we just start to work with someone. And if someone comes back and they go, look, man, I've tried all the things you've said. I just really can't do it. It's too much for me. I go, look, it's totally fine. Just bear in mind that this is something you might want to consider down the track. As something that, you might be ready for down the track that you can engage with.
Yeah, it's just getting that motivational, what do you call it, autonomous motivation.
Yeah.
Right? Like people can come to it themselves. And sometimes it does take a few prompts. As a practitioner, you got to prompt, people. Like sometimes I've started doing things more like where you've got something where you're like, this is going to be a massive thing, but if you do this will really help you. Right. Like I use the carnivore diet with some patients, for instance, right?
Same.
Yeah, so I'll just sort of say to them something like, there's something you can do. You need to do a bit of research into this. It might not be for you, because if people come to it by themselves, or they feel as if they have, they are much more compliant with it, doing it, right? That's autonomous motivation, right? No one likes to be told to do something. And you do have, we'll sometimes find some patients are like, just tell me and I'll do it, like they're desperate, right?
But isn't that just one of the beautiful things about practice is you get to behold that change in someone. I think that is one of the things that I love the most about practice is It doesn't always happen with everyone, but every now and again you get someone come along and you watch their life change in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And it's just such a privilege to be part of, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a great job. It's a
Yeah.
great profession. It's a wonderful job.
It is.
It's a wonderful situation to be in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for doing this.
This has been great.
Yeah, this is awesome.
We're going to keep talking.
Yeah, we could have. I'm sure we could have more podcasts and more things to talk about. So yeah, if you have a question for Jeff, put it in the comments, and next time he's in Perth, we can do this again. So if people are you're practicing Newcastle.
Yeah, Newcastle, New South Wales. Yep.
Evolve Natural Medicine.
Evolve Natural Medicine. Yep.
We'll put the
Thank
linky
you.
thing
Very
in
kind.
the link in the description. Click the buttons. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, thanks everyone for your support. And if you're on Spotify or something like that, then you can leave us a review, and that's always good. Apple reviews. If you're on YouTube, you can put a comment, and I'll answer your questions. That's what I do here. So yeah, hopefully this has been useful and helpful to you, and we'll see you again on another. Well, I'll see you again on another episode soon. Thank you.
Keep spreading the love.